So let's come back to our motivation of compassion for other living beings based on the ability to listen to a variety of different opinions without getting attached to our own. So being able to advocate for our ideas, but without being attached to them. And being able to listen to other people's ideas without getting defensive if those ideas don't agree with our own. So instead, having quite an open mind. In its ability to listen, and open mind in its ability to care. And in that way, let's set our feet firmly on the path to full awakening. So, we left off yesterday. We were starting to talk about this Sanskrit tradition and the 3 levels of dependency that they advocate. So we got through the first level of dependency, causal dependence. Yeah, and then we're this second level that His Holiness talks about is dependent designation, which itself has 2 implications. One is dependent designation, one is mutual dependence, and one is mere dependent designation. Okay, so in terms of mutual dependence, from the bottom of 177, based on causal dependence, mutual dependence, and mere dependent designation are explained in the Prajnaparamita Sutra. So based on understanding first causal dependence, then we become able to understand the other 2 types. Causal dependence is not too difficult to understand. We know that flowers grow from seeds and that knowledge comes from learning. Yet we don't usually think that causes depend on their effects. We're usually just focused on the effects depending on their causes. On the basis of observing causal dependence, deeper reflection leads us to recognize the mutuality of the relationship. Okay, so here is what I find quite interesting. As we start out with causal dependence, and we understand one level of it, and we have to keep meditating on causal dependence to get to the deeper levels of dependent arising. Okay? Because sometimes we think, if you understand causal dependence, then shouldn't you automatically understand mutual dependence and mere dependent designation? No. Yeah. And this is illustrated by the lower schools that understand causal dependence but don't understand these other types of dependence. In the same way that we think, well, if somebody understands causal dependence, they should know things aren't inherently existent because inherent existence would mean that things are permanent. But no, they don't understand that. Yeah. They don't understand that if things existed inherently, they would be permanent. Okay? So the whole thing is we have to really keep going deeper and deeper in all of these so that we can understand them at different levels. And it's only by really staying with one and then seeing all of its ramifications that we get it. Okay? In the same way, another misunderstanding people often have is just understanding, let's say, impermanence should mean that we understand things are empty of inherent existence. Yeah, again, based on the idea that, well, if people understood that all these things are impermanent, then if they're inherently existent, they would have to be permanent and they couldn't be impermanent. But being permanent is not the description of the object of negation when we're refuting inherent existence. Okay? So grasping things as permanent is different than grasping at them as inherently existent. So we can give up grasping them as permanent, but still grasp them not as inherently existent, not realizing the contradiction in our own mind. So on the basis of observing causal dependence, deeper reflection leads us to recognize the mutuality of the relationship. Not only does the effect depend on the cause, but also the cause depends upon the effect. How does that happen? Although a cause does not arise from its effects, the identity of something as a cause depends upon there being an effect or the possibility of there being an effect. Okay. A seed becomes a cause because it has the potential to produce its effect, a sprout. Without the possibility of a sprout arising, the seed cannot be a cause. So this is not mere semantics. The meaning is deeper. So when we look at it, when we call the seed a cause, is it a cause from its own side? No, there has to be the possibility of an effect for it to be considered a cause. The effect doesn't have to exist right now because something could interfere with the seed producing a sprout. Maybe somebody comes and burns the field and the seed's not going to produce a sprout. But at this moment it has the potential. So even though there's no effect yet, that potential that exists within the seed means that it is dependent upon the possibility of there being an effect or there having been an effect. Okay? So the seed isn't a cause from its own side. Because also, seen in another way, the seed is a result of its own causes, isn't it? The seed didn't come out of nowhere. It's the result of its own causes, the tree or the plant that produced it. And at the same time, it's a cause of its own results, whatever is going to grow from that seed. Okay? So the seed is both a cause and a result, but it's not a cause and result to the same thing. It's the cause of its effect, and it's the effect of its cause, which are different. Things have no inherent identity as either a cause or an effect. Okay. When the term cause is imputed to a seed, nothing in the seed objectively makes it a referent for the term cause. The same holds true for an effect. So when you look inside the seed, there's nothing that exists in the seed that makes it a cause. You're not going to find something jumping out that says, hi, I'm the causal part of the seed. As if one part of the seed is a causal part and the other part of the seed is not a causal part, and you could differentiate them and find one without finding the other. Okay? So there's nothing inside the seed that is a cause. And there's nothing inside the sprout that is an effect. And there's nothing inside the sprout that is a cause for the tree that the sprout will grow into. So these things become called cause or effect only in relationship to their own specific effects or causes. Okay, it's only in this mutual dependence that happens. Without any kind of mutual dependence, you would have neither causes nor effects. So there are many obvious examples of things existing in mutual dependence on one another. East and west, suffering and happiness, goer and going, designated object and basis of designation, definition and definiendum, spiritual practitioner and path, whole and parts, ordinary being and Arya. All these are posited in relationship to each other. So some pairs that are mutually dependent are also causally dependent, such as yesterday's mind and today's mind. Okay. However, many are not. What's an example of things that are mutually dependent but not causally dependent? Long and short. What else? Student and teacher. Okay. Someone becomes an employer because he or she has employees, and vice versa. None of our social roles are self-existent. They exist mutually dependent on each other. So this is something to really think about, especially, you have leader and followers, president and citizens. These things only have meaning in relationship to each other. Without the other half of the thing, it has no meaning. If you're alone on a desert island, a deserted island, you're not a leader and you're not a follower, you're not an employer and you're not an employee. You're none of those because those things are only established in relationships to others. Now, those are very simple examples. When you really sit down and think about it, think about who you think you are, okay? How you feel about yourself, your identity in the world. And when you think deeply about this, it becomes apparent that it exists in relationship to many, many, many things. That we only have a particular role or a particular identity or a particular thought of our identity. Because sometimes our thoughts about our identities are not accurate, but that only happens in relationship to many, many, many other factors. And we can alter that relationship to some of the factors, and alter our identity. And we can also ease up our mind on having too solid of a concept of our identity. Okay? Because, let me just give you a personal example here. You may have things in your own life. Am I a liberal or am I a conservative? Okay. When you talk about me in relationship to the very traditional way things are done in Tibetan monasteries, I am a radical liberal because I favor gender equality. That just puts me off the charts. When you compare me to some Western Buddhist teachers, the lay Western teachers. I am very conservative because I really stick to the tradition in many aspects and the traditional presentation of the teachings. So am I a liberal or am I a conservative? Okay. So there it's just, again, just two things, liberal and conservative. But when we really look at our role in society, we have many, many different identities that aren't just opposite like that. You know, we're all children of parents. Some of you are parents of children. Many of us are siblings to our siblings. Some of you may be only children. Yeah. Some of us went to one type of school. Some went to another type of school. Some of us have easy time finding jobs. Some of us don't want jobs. Some of us can't find jobs. You know, we have so many, many different relationships with society, and none of them are fixed, and they're all established in relationship to something else. Yeah. So you may say in America, oh, I can't find a job. But if you go to another country, you might get a job like that. Yeah? So we can't nail ourselves into certain social roles because depending on the situation, these things are actually quite fluid. In high school, we may have thought, I just think my sister talks about her son, and he's a big fish in a little pond. And he's going to college next year, and he's going to be a little fish in a big pond. He's still the same kid. I mean, hopefully he'll mature between, in the next few months too. But, basically the same kid. But being a big fish in a little pond is very different than being a little fish in a big pond. Very different. Yeah. And yet, from his side, not a whole lot has changed. If anything, he'll be more mature by the time he starts college next autumn. Okay? So it's interesting to see, how we think of ourselves, is always in relationship to others. Mm-hmm. And I think very often we take this too seriously and make it too solid. Yeah. The relationship becomes solid. We develop an identity about it. I cannot be anything else except this. Yeah. When you live in one country, you become part of the invisible majority who doesn't recognize prejudice. Because when you're in the dominant thing, you don't recognize prejudice because most things correspond with what you are. When you, having the same exact characteristics, go to another country, when you're in a minority, the whole way you look at the world changes because you no longer have that privilege. And you're in the minority and you become very aware of it. Okay. Your traits have not changed at all. Yeah. But we develop certain mental sets, in relationship to where we happen to be living and how we fit in with the rest of that society. Also, not to make those relationships so solid, because very often we feel more like a minority than other people think of us as being. Okay? Sometimes we're more aware of our difference than other people are. Sometimes other people are more aware of our difference than we are. Does it really matter? Okay. What about if no matter what situation we were in, we didn't put so much emphasis on being part of the majority or part of the minority? What happens if we looked at the world as these are all sentient beings who want happiness and don't want suffering and are overwhelmed by their afflictions? Would we then feel like a majority? Would we then feel like a minority? Whatever society we went into, we would be exactly like everybody else, except for maybe a few holy beings. We would be like everybody else, wanting to be happy, creating the causes of suffering, overwhelmed by afflictions and karma. Period. No majority, no minority, no privilege, no being discriminated against. Okay? So do you get a little bit more of a feeling about what mutual dependence means and how we actually have some ability to redefine how we are mutually dependent on others? We don't need to accept other people's classifications. We can also develop our classifications. Okay? Getting what I mean? Actions are called constructive or destructive, not because they are inherently so. And this is real different than theistic religions. Theistic religions, an external creator created the rules. What is virtuous? What is non-virtuous? In Buddhism, the Buddha did not create that. The Buddha only described when sentient beings experience happiness, these are the causes for them. And those causes were called virtue. When these results come, then when these suffering results come, he looked and he saw these were the causes. And those causes were called non-virtue. Okay? So virtue and non-virtue did not come as a result of the Buddha making up rules. He only described, he only observed what kind of results come from what kind of causes. And virtue and non-virtue were designated not because things are inherently existent, but because in relation to the kind of results they bring. Okay? Agent, action, and object of action. Okay, such as giver, giving, and recipient and gift. Okay, so an act of generosity, you have the giver, you have the action of giving, you have the recipient of it, you have the gift. Yeah. Are all likewise mutually dependent upon each other. A generous action exists dependent on these three. Okay? So we have the idea, here's the person. They are an inherently existent giver. Here's the thermos that's going to be the inherently existent gift. Okay. There's Cheryl, who's going to be the inherently existent recipient. And the action of giving, so this thermos passing through space, is an inherently existent action of giving. That's how we look at it. And as if all these things are there just waiting to come together. Okay? Do I become a giver without there being a gift and giving and a recipient? No. Is she the recipient without the gift or the giving and the giver? No. So none of these things exist in and of themselves. They only exist that way in relationship to each other. Now, when do they all exist? At what moment do they exist? Okay. At what moment do I become the giver? She becomes the recipient. This becomes the gift, and the action becoming the action, the movement becoming the action. At what moment do these things happen? Is it when I develop the intention to give to her? Is it when she realizes that she's going to get a beautiful turquoise, kind of turquoise, blue turquoise, thermos? Is it when I pick it up and start to hand it to her? Is it when she takes it? Because when I start to hand it to her, it's still mine. I haven't given it to her. So how can I be a giver? And she hasn't received it yet, so how can she be the recipient? Once it's in her hand, the action of giving is finished. So there's no longer any giver, giving, recipient. So when did all of those things exist? At which point? When it was both her hand and my hand touching it? At that point? But that moment when her hand and my hand were touching it, that consists of a few seconds, right? Those few seconds have a beginning, middle, and end. So which one of those seconds are we all giving, giver, gift, and recipient? At which moment? You might say the middle moment. Okay. So then the first moment when both of our hands are on it, neither of us are giver or gift or any of these things. The moment, the third moment, neither of us, the action still looks the same. Both of our hands are on it. But no, it doesn't exist at that point. Now the middle moment, if we say the middle moment, is the time when all these exist, when the actual act of giving has happened. That middle moment also has a beginning, middle, and later part. So which part of that middle moment is the time when these exist? What are you going to say? The beginning of the middle moment, the middle of the middle moment, the end of the middle moment? Yeah, you'll choose the middle. But that part also has a beginning, middle, and end. Okay. So when actually do the giver, recipient, gift, and giving occur? Can you find that moment? We can't find that moment. Yeah. Do we then say that there was no act of giving? There was an act of giving. Can we find out when it happened? No. Can we find who the giver is? No. Can we find the recipient? No. Can we find the gift? No. Can we find the action of giving? No. Do all these things exist? Yes. Okay? So there, you're getting some sense of mutual dependence, and yet ultimately unfindable. Okay? Ultimately empty, mutually dependent. Okay? If you really want to have fun with this, look at chapter 2 of Nagarjuna's Karikas, where he talks about the goer and the going. Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah. Because someone is going. You know, you came from your room to the meditation hall. At what time did the going occur? And where did the going occur? And if you can't find the goer, and you can't find the place where the goer goes, how is there a goer? Very interesting. Yeah. A whole and parts also depend on each other. A car, a whole, is dependent on an engine, wheels, and so forth, its parts. And a wheel is a car part because cars exist. Does a wheel have to be attached to a car to be a car part? Is it part of a car if it's not attached to a car? Okay. You go to a shop that says car parts, but there's not a car there. There's no car at the car part shop. So how can there be parts of a car? I mean, isn't this bogus business? He's selling car parts, and there's no car. Okay, but you can't say that that they're not car parts. Yeah, because what's he going to say? Just a shop of parts? Yeah, nobody who needs a tire is going to go there. Yeah, because if he just says parts, then you need a bicycle tire, so you go there. You know, do you have part of bicycle? Yeah, so it's a car park, but there's no car there. If cars had not yet been invented, but there were still wheels, would they be car parts? Cars haven't yet been invented, but you still have wheels, you know, and those wheels later could be put on a car when cars are invented and make the car go. But before the car is invented, are there car parts? Are there car wheels? Oh, so you're saying there's no car wheels. So, okay, before we had the name cancer, did people die of cancer? Did people die of cancer before we knew the cancer existed? So then the car part should, the wheels should be a car part before there's a car. Because people died of cancer before there were cancer. We knew about cancer. What exactly is cancer? Besides a word that terrifies you, a sound that terrifies you. What exactly is it? Can you find what exactly is cancer? Or do you only find a bunch of symptoms that are not cancer? What do you find when there's cancer? Oh, you find a tumor. But a tumor isn't necessarily cancer. There's many benign tumors. Okay. So the person doesn't feel well. Yeah. It's a symptom of cancer. But many, that doesn't mean they have cancer. There's many other reasons for not feeling well. So you go through this whole list of symptoms, for cancer. Are any of the symptoms themselves cancer? Are any of those symptoms cancer? No. Where's the cancer? What is the cancer? Just think. Don't tell me words. Think. Look at it right now. You know, the cancer that you're so afraid that you're going to die from, whether you've had it before or not. Where is that? Yeah. Do you get some kind of funny feeling? Does it give you some kind of change of mind? I'm not talking about blah, blah words. Okay. But does how you look at cancer change when you think of it like that? It does, doesn't it? Yeah. So it's interesting, whatever, when you have some illness, ask yourself exactly what is this illness? Because as soon as we get a name, we like tense up. Yeah. But exactly what is this? Yeah. And really explore. Okay, both permanent and impermanent phenomena depend on their parts. The mind depends on a continuity of moments of consciousness. Atoms are composed of even smaller particles. No smallest particle or moment of consciousness can be found because everything consists of parts. Emptiness, too, depends on parts. The generality emptiness is designated in dependence on the emptiness of the table, the emptiness of the chair, and so on. Emptiness also depends on phenomena, persons, aggregates, and so forth, that are empty. Thus, emptiness is not an independently existent absolute. So this is also extremely important to meditate on, because when we start meditating on emptiness, then there's this feeling of, I got it. Yeah? There's the absolute, ultimate reality that is the nature of everything. I've found it. What exactly have you found? Yeah, you've found a lack of inherent existence. Can you show me a lack of inherent existence? Can you show me a lack of something that's never existed at all? Yeah. What is emptiness? Is it one, we think there it is, one big solid thing. The ultimate cosmic energy that pervades everything. Wrong. Again. Yeah. What are you going to identify and draw a line around and say that's emptiness and that is not emptiness? Well, the emptiness of the gong is emptiness, but the emptiness of the pillow is not emptiness. Either that or you have two emptinesses. Then you have two ultimate natures. We can't have that. Or is it the same ultimate nature, If it were, then the emptiness of the gong would be the emptiness of the pillow, and the emptiness of the pillow would be the emptiness of the gong. That's not so either. Okay, so we begin to see emptiness has parts, and emptiness exists in a mutual way with its basis, the bases of things that are empty. We can't talk about the emptiness of the gong without the existence of the gong there. Yeah, there isn't an emptiness of the tissue without the tissues. So emptiness depends on the conventional phenomena that are empty. But you can't find that emptiness that is one independent, absolute nature. That's why I don't think calling emptiness an absolute truth, I think that terminology gives the wrong impression that it is something that's independent of everything else. And emptiness, like everything else, is dependent on other things. It doesn't exist on its own as some sort of self-enclosed entity. I just looked at the bookmarker that I was using. It's from the John Chub Lam Rim teachings, and it says foreigner on it. Foreigner. I guess Trump's going to deport me. I'm a foreigner. Am I a foreigner or am I a citizen? Am I a foreigner or am I a citizen? Oh no. This card says Cheryl Andrea Green. Who's that? I'm Tootin' Children. I don't know who Cheryl Green is. This is wrong information. It has a picture that looks like me, but that's not me. Delving deeper, we see that phenomena exist by being merely designated in dependence upon their basis of designation. So here again, we're meditating more. First, we start meditating on causal dependence. That leads us to understand mutual dependence. When we understand mutual dependence, and we go deeper, deeper, deeper in that understanding, then we understand mere dependent designation. So there is a designated object, a table, and its basis of designation, the collection of the legs and the top. The mind conceives the collection of these parts as a table and designates it table. But if we try and find in essence the true referent of the word table, we can't find anything that is the table in the individual parts or in the collection of parts. Nothing in the parts can be objectively identified as the table. Dependence on other factors means that phenomena are empty of inherent existence. Okay, so where's the table? It's here. What is the table? So if we have a collection of table parts, did you build this table? No. Who? Oh, Venerable Tarpa did. Okay. So when Venerable Tarpa had all the parts there, was it a table? Are you sure? You're sure? Okay. So there was no table with just the collection of parts. Then how did you get a table when you put the same exact things that are all non-tables together. How did you get a table? You put together a bunch of things. This is not a table. This is not a table. The front board is not a table. This leg isn't a table. What's the table? How come when you put a bunch of things together, they become a table? I think that's magic. Yeah. I mean, look at it, isn't it? It's making something appear out of nothing. You didn't have a table, and then you have a table. Yeah? Isn't that just as magical as, Sai Baba pulling things out of his sleeve? Yeah? Okay. When snake is imputed to a coiled speckled rope in a dimly lit area. Okay. So there's a coiled speckled rope over there. But you don't know it's a coiled speckled rope. That you just look and there's something that's coiled and speckled. Okay. And you look and you go, it's a snake! And you get totally freaked out. Yeah. Because as soon as you impute snake, then the snakes, it's got to be a poisonous one, of course. It's not one of our little garden snakes here. It's a poisonous one. And it's not just a poisonous one. It's going to bite me. And it's not going to just going to bite me. I'm going to die from it. Okay, do you see how the mind goes? Yeah, coiled, speckled thing. Snake is going to bite me. I'm going to die. Split second. Okay, freak out. Is there anything in that coiled, speckled thing? You later go there and look, and it's like, oh, it's only a rope. Yeah. Is there anything in that rope that is a snake? No. Yeah. There's nothing in that rope that is a snake. But what if you have a coiled, speckled thing in the corner, and you turn on the light and look, and it is a snake? Is there a snake in that coiled, speckled rope? Is there a snake in that coiled, speckled thing? Is there a snake in the coiled, speckled rope? No. Is there a snake in the coiled, speckled thing over there that happens to be poisonous and might just bite you and you might just die? Or maybe it's not a poisonous one, but still it's a snake. Is there a snake in that coiled, speckled thing? So there's no snake in the rope, and there's no snake in the snake. No snake in the rope and no snake in the snake? Then why are we calling it snake if there's no snake in the snake? What's the difference between calling a rope a snake and calling that coiled, speckled thing a snake? Okay, so one functions as a snake and the other doesn't. What about if it's just lying there minding its own business? Is it functioning as a snake at that time? Yeah, what does function as a snake mean? Is this lying there the same way as the rope is lying there? What do you mean it's functioning as a snake? Yeah, it has the potential to bite you or to run away from you. Okay. Like when I walked, I didn't walk into a bear. I walked into like about that far away from a bear. This was last year. It was like from me to where Julie's sitting. Yeah. I rounded a corner and it's like, there's a bear. And it wasn't a teddy bear. Yeah. I was tempted to impute teddy bear. That would have made me feel different than imputing real bear. Yeah. And he was kind of cute, as long as he stayed over there. Okay. So what's the difference? There is absolutely no, look at that rope. There is absolutely no snake in that rope. Absolutely. Gain complete confidence. There is no snake in that rope. Then that other coiled, speckled thing, there is no snake in that either. There's totally no snake in that coiled, speckled thing. Unless you can find one. Can you point out what's the snake? Is it the coil? Is it the speckle? Is it the skin? Is it the inside? Is it the head? Is it the tail? What is the snake? But then, again, you can put all the parts in a different way, in a different place. Then even if you put them together in a certain way, it's still a collection of parts. And a collection of parts is not one thing. Collection of parts is a bunch of different things. So there's totally no snake in that coiled, speckled thing. Okay. In the same way, when you think me, there is no me in the aggregates. Totally no me in the aggregates. Unless you can unzip here, open it up, and me pops out like a Jack in the Box. Hi, I'm Chudran. Or maybe a homunculus in my pituitary gland. Hi, I'm Chudran. No, I'm Cheryl. Well, who are you? So exactly what are you? Within the aggregates, there is no you. If this doesn't make you feel creepy, like everything you thought existed, that you center your whole life around, you suddenly find out it's not there. There is no inherently existent person there, period. So that's kind of shocking. Yeah. Then you like the good part when I say, but there's still a conventionally existent person. Because then it's like, whew, that was just a bad dream. I still am who I thought I was. I'm a conventionally existent, inherently existent me. All that stuff about I don't exist, that's all blah, blah, because I'm a conventional self. And we go right back into thinking about ourselves the same way as before. Here I am. Okay? We don't understand the meaning of conventional. Yeah, we think conventional existence means inherent existence. We're just like those Vibhasikas. Yeah, let's not criticize them so much. We can refute their ideas up, down, and across, but we're one of them. You know, there's a real me here. No, we're not even one of the Vibhasikas. We're a non-Buddhist. Yeah, I have a soul. Yeah. Don't tell me I'm dependent arising. I have a soul that is really me, that is permanent. Body and mind change, but there's a real me that goes from one life to the next, together with my identity card, which has the wrong name on it. And when I'm born in the next life, then I am going to be a foreigner. Because when we get born in the next life, we're a total foreigner to whatever world we were just born in. Yeah? What kind of world is this? I'm not used to this. This is all pretty foreign to me. Even we're born as a human being. Yeah? Yeah, then we'll really be foreigners. And then all sorts of kind sentient beings will help us stay alive.